Hey y'all, this is Richard with Mostly Mopar, and today we're going to be working on a Chrysler 8 3/4 rear differential. The sure grip in this thing, I showed a video the other day, the sure grip in it was giving up, so I pulled it apart, and sometimes you can go in and resand the cones and shim the springs a little bit, but when I got in here, this is how bad wore out this thing was. It was, I mean, it's trash. As you can see, it's falling all to pieces. Let me keep pulling it out. So see, this has been coming apart for a while. The car, this rear end was in the car when I bought it, and it was already, like I say, you can see it's broke the pin, and it's wallered the housing out here on rear end. So there's, let's see if I could get that axle gear out, but anyway, it's not gonna come out easy, so I'm not worried about it. But anyway, what I've done is this is going to be a pretty much dedicated track car. It's going in a 74 Duster. So what we've got here is what I'm gonna do is, the ring and pinion is fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the sure grip out, and we're going to replace it. So, okay, the axle gear fell out of that one. All right, you can see while we're here, you can see the area there where these are the locking areas on the friction surfaces on this track lock, or sure grip, I'm sorry. And all this gets worn out, so the spring pressure gets where it's not enough. So anyway, basically we're gonna pull that out. And like I say, all these bolts here, you've got a small row of bolts here, which are these that take the limited slip loose. And then these are the bolts, and these are left-hand threads. These take the ring gear loose from the locker part, limited slip part. And what I bought, this is a quick performance spool. So this is going to lock it permanently. If this thing starts slipping, that means I broke something. So this is a 30 spline rear end. I guess I'll get my knife here, open that thing up. Not real good with this one-hand stuff, but I have to set the camera down, but okay, so we got the end loose. So all I've got to do, I'm gonna have to press my new axle bearings. And the kit I bought came with new carrier bearings. So I got to press those on, and I'm gonna check and make sure that the splines are correct on this. It is 30 spline. I know y'all don't want to watch me struggle with this, but out. Okay, so like I said, the ring gear, when we take the ring gear off, we'll pop it on here. We'll use these to make sure it's seated good, and then we'll clean all the oil off of this, all the grease, and then we'll put Loctite on there and torque these back down, and then we just drop this. This will drop right back into our housing. And with the 8 3/4, you've got a system here that instead of having to shim it, you've got basically set like rings, adjustable rings, where you can run it back and forth to set your depth. So I'm going to take my axles, I'm going to stick the axles in here and make sure that the spline fits right, and then I'm going to move on to getting that ring gear off of there and getting it put on here. Okay, I took all the bolts out with the impact. take the ring gear off. And actually, this is the easiest I've ever popped the ring gear off. I just flipped it up and took my brass hammer and holding this on the side, tapped this a few times, and it just fell right out. So now, before I get all that worried about cleaning this thing off, we're gonna lay it, I'm going and drop it down. And we're going to try to line our holes up here. Get that. Okay. All right, I've got the holes fairly close lined up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna probably have to set the camera down just a second, but I've got to take and start a couple of those bolts in there just to make sure that everything's gonna fit good. And once I know that's fitting good, then I'm gonna take the ring gear back off and clean everything up, clean the bolts up, and then I'm gonna re-secure them in there with Loctite. So let me set y'all down just a second here. Get y'all where y'all can see what we're doing. Remember, these are left hand, so we'll have to start them backwards. This angled up on there just a little better. Look through, make sure our bolt holes are starting straight. Get y'all back in the camera range there. Okay, we've got enough bolts in there now that, maybe back here. We've got enough bolts started to hold it straight so we can see that all of our holes are gonna line up. So at this point, I'm gonna pull it back apart, clean everything up, and then put it back together with some Loctite. So I'll get back with y'all in just a little bit. Okay, now I've cleaned off the ring gear. I cleaned out the bolt holes and then blew them out with air. We've got all the grease off of this. We cleaned the bolts up, got them degreased. We degreased the front of the spool. We slid it up from the bottom and held it, and I got 3 bolts started. And now we're taking just put a little bit of, I'm using blue Loctite. Put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. Dropping the hole. Remember, these are left-hand threads. So run that one in. This is one of my original ones I used to pull it up. It does not have the Loctite on it yet. So we'll go ahead and Loctite it. Go ahead and get them all. And I'm going to assemble this and then let it sit. I've got to go to a funeral this evening, so I will not get this assembled today. It'll probably be tomorrow before I finish putting it together. So that'll give the Loctite will have another day to sit here, and you know, if it cures or however Loctite works exactly, if it's gluing it in or not. But anyway, that'll give it if it wants to cure, that'll give it another day to cure before it starts getting soaked in the differential oil. So one more, and then I've got one more there I'm going to have to take back out and put the Loctite on. And then I'm going to, you can torque these down, but I'm just going to impact them down till I feel good about it. Said if you were, and you'd want to do these kind of in a star pattern when you're tightening them down a little bit at the time with your impact or your torque wrench, what's torque it, steps, however you want to do it. But I'm gonna get that, and then I'm gonna let it set, and then once it's set, then I'm gonna press the bearings on the end, and then we'll drop it back in the housing, and we'll go through the process of setting our backlash. Okay, at this point we have our ring gear bolted on our spool, and I just got through driving the bearings onto the end of the spool. Now, if you've got a press, that's the best way to do it, to press them down on there. But if you don't, you can put the ring gear in the spool in the freezer overnight. That would have helped some. But what I did is I got on my shop floor. I got these two plates that come off of a small press that this wouldn't quite fit in. So I laid one on the shop floor, set this on that. I went by the hardware or the parts house, and this is a piece of exhaust pipe, and I made sure that it would fit. It's the outside of my race. It fits around the race, so it'll stay off of the bearings. And I heated this up with my Harbor Freight Warrior heat gun. Didn't use it. If you've got a propane torch or small torch, that'll be fine. I was just trying the heat gun. Spent about 5 minutes heating that up. I sprayed some WD-40 on the end of the shaft here where the race and bearing drive. Like I said, I did not have it's probably about 60 degrees here this morning. This was just sitting in my shop, so it's 60 degrees. It wasn't, anything ridiculously cold. So I heated this up for about 5 minutes. I laid it on the top, which I had WD-40 sprayed on. Then I laid another plate on top, and then I took this piece of pipe, I laid this on top of there, and then I laid the other plate on top so I could drive it straight, and then I drove it down, and it took about 8 or 10 licks, and they drove down solid. So, it took me about five minutes other than heating up, and everything drove down fine. So that's a little tip for you if you trying to drive a bearing a race on. The heat gun will get it hot enough to make a difference. I still had to drive it down. It didn't fall on by any stretch, but it wasn't easy. That's a piece of exhaust pipe. The only place it done any damage to it was that where I had the plate on top and had to hit on the edge just to adjust a little. It started running it down. So I didn't have to beat on it hard, and that's just a little 2-pound brass hammer. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get this set up in the rear end, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, this video should finish up the spool installation here. So, like I said, after I got the bearings pressed on, cleaned all our parts up here, cleaned out our case, just drop this in, slide your races on the outside of your bearing. Like I said, with this set in, then take your caps, clean them up, set them on, just run them down. I run them down with a ratchet till they hit, and then I back them off just enough that you could still get a little bit of play with the cap. So we did that both sides. And then this is the important part. If you've never done this, this is kind of tricky because it feels sometimes to adjust the lash on this 8 3/4 Chrysler. You've got these plates here that thread that adjust the play back and forth. And what you do is, like I said, with this slightly loose, stick it up there, and you want to just keep feeling it till you get it started. Make sure it spins in pretty easy with your finger if you have to push it with a screwdriver, but don't try to force it because it's easy to get them cross-threaded messed up, and then you're going to have a problem. So just take your time. It's a little aggravating. You may have to loosen this, tighten this, whatever. I've seen people set this in first and then try to set the cap on. I've never had really great success doing that. I always just start my cap, get it down, make sure it's seated but loose, get those in. Now once you get with the cap still loose, once you get those in, then kind of pre-adjust it back and forth till you've got probably an excess of play here, but not a lot. Then go on and just with a ratchet take the slack out of these, make sure they're kind of seated. And then start running it. Like if you need to go that way, you'll run this one in. Run it in, however far you run it in, then run this out. You want to keep these touching. You want a little bit of pressure squeezing in, but you don't want an excess, because that'll control the play in your bearing some. But anyway, you want to loosen the right hand side and tighten the left to drive your ring gear toward your pinion. And I've got just you probably can't see it there, my vise is rocking, but I've set a bunch of these up, and this is in a race car. If it was in a something I was putting thousands of miles on, I'd probably set it to take the dial caliper and I mean the micrometer and check my input, or check my backlash on it. But I didn't have to set the depth, because I just put all this went back. The ring and pinion were already in here and set up. So anyway, you get that till you've got the correct amount of backlash that you want. Then you snug this one in. Make sure you've got them touching, and then make sure that your backlash still feels good. Then lock these, don't torque these down. And you've got a little bit of play here, flip this side to side, but anyway, you've got two tangs here that go into that just to keep these from backing off, that lock it in. And once you get that locked in, just recheck your backlash, make sure it's what you want, and then you're pretty much ready to throw it back in the car. And I'm going to get in there and clean out my housing some, and I've got to put another universal joint drive shaft on, and I'm going to put this together, and that'll be done. So that was pretty simple, especially, you know, just changing the old limited slip out and putting the spool in. That was pretty simple. It probably, I mean, I doubt I had over an hour breaking this down and putting it back together, maybe an hour and a half, because I was cleaning and doing the video. But it's pretty simple. Just need to, you know, just keep your eye on what you're doing, take your time. All right, y'all have a good evening.